August 14th, 2005. A Boeing 737 takes off from Larnaca, Cyprus, heading to Athens, Greece. 121 people are on board. It's a short flight, less than an hour. But within minutes of takeoff, something goes terribly wrong. The crew stops responding to air traffic control. The plane continues flying on autopilot, climbing higher and higher. Inside, everyone is unconscious. They don't know they're dying. Fighter jets are scrambled to intercept. The pilots pull alongside the ghost plane and peer into the cockpit. What they see is chilling. The captain slumped over the controls. The first officer's seat is empty. No one is flying the plane. Through the windows, they can see passengers still strapped in, motionless. The plane is flying itself, and everyone on board is already dead. This is the story of Helios Airways Flight 522, the ghost flight that flew for nearly 3 hours with no one conscious to control it, and the flight attendant who woke up just in time to watch it fall from the sky. The morning starts like any other. Helios Airways Flight 522 is scheduled to fly from Larnaca to Athens, then continue to Prague. The Boeing 737 is relatively new, delivered just 4 months earlier. Captain Hans-Jürgen Merten, a German pilot with extensive experience, is at the controls. First Officer Pompos Charalambos, a Cypriot, sits beside him. In the cabin, 115 passengers settle in, including 48 children. Before departure, maintenance crews had performed a pressure test on the aircraft. To conduct the test, they switched the pressurization system to manual mode, but when they finished, they forgot to switch it back to automatic. It's a small oversight, a single switch left in the wrong position, but it will kill everyone on board. At 9:07 a.m., Flight 522 takes off and begins climbing toward its cruising altitude of 34,000 feet. As the plane ascends, the cabin should pressurize automatically, maintaining breathable air even at high altitude. But the system is still in manual mode. The cabin isn't pressurizing. With every 1,000 feet, the air gets thinner. At 9:20 a.m., just 13 minutes into the flight, an alarm sounds in the cockpit. It's the cabin altitude warning. The cabin pressure is dangerously low, but the crew is already confused. Hypoxia, oxygen deprivation, is setting in. Their judgment is impaired. Their reactions are slow. They think it's the takeoff configuration warning, a different alarm. They don't realize they're suffocating. The captain contacts the company's operations center. His speech is slurred. He's struggling to think clearly. He mentions a problem with the air conditioning, but he doesn't declare an emergency. He doesn't descend to a safe altitude where there's breathable air. Hypoxia is insidious. You don't realize you're dying. You just feel tired, confused, and then you lose consciousness. By 9:30 a.m., the cockpit gone silent. Air traffic control tries repeatedly to contact Flight 522. There's no response. The plane continues flying northeast on autopilot, exactly as programmed. It reaches 34,000 feet and levels off. Inside, everyone is unconscious. The passengers, the flight attendants, the pilots, all of them are slowly dying from lack of oxygen. At 10 a.m., Greek air traffic control notices the plane isn't responding. They alert the military. At 10:40 a.m., 2 F-16 fighter jets are scrambled to intercept. They catch up to the Boeing 737 as it flies over the Aegean Sea. The fighter pilots position their jets alongside the passenger plane and peer into the cockpit. It's surreal. The captain is slumped over the controls. The first officer's seat is empty. No one is flying the plane. Through the passenger windows, the fighter pilots can see passengers still strapped in, motionless. The plane is flying itself, and everyone on board is already dead. Then, at 11:49 a.m., something changes. A figure appears in the cockpit. Someone is moving.
The fighter pilots report seeing a person enter the flight deck and sit in the captain's seat. Someone is still alive. His name is Andreas Protoramou. He's a flight attendant, but he also holds a commercial pilot license. He's been in the cabin, unconscious like everyone else, but somehow he wakes up. Maybe he was younger, stronger. Maybe he was near a portable oxygen bottle. We'll never know. But he regains consciousness and realizes the horror around him. Everyone is dead or dying. The plane is flying on autopilot, and he's the only one who can do anything about it. Andreas makes his way to the cockpit. The pilots are dead. He takes the captain's seat. The fighter pilots see him trying to take control. He waves at them. He's trying, but it's too late. The plane has been flying for nearly 3 hours. The fuel is almost gone.
Terrain below. The fighter pilots watch as the ghost plane begins its final descent. They see Andreas still trying, still fighting, but there's nothing more he can do. The plane is going down. At 12:04 p.m., Helios Flight 522 crashes into a hillside near Grammatiko, Greece. The impact is catastrophic. The aircraft disintegrates. Fire consumes the wreckage. 121 people on board are killed. Andreas Prodromou, the flight attendant who woke up and tried to save them, dies with the plane he almost rescued. The investigation begins immediately. Crash site teams recover the cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder. What they piece together is a tragedy of errors. The pressurization system was left in manual mode after maintenance, a single switch. The crew, confused by hypoxia, didn't recognize the warning for what it was. They never descended to safe altitude. By the time the alarm sounded, they were already too impaired to save themselves. Black box recordings of the flight. You can hear the cabin altitude and rarely. You can hear the crew's confusion and then silence. For nearly 3 hours, the only sound is the alarm ringing in the empty cockpit while 121 people slowly died. Andreas Prodromou's final moments are captured too. The fighter pilots described his desperate attempt to save the plane. He waved at them. He tried to communicate. He fought until the very end. But he was one man against impossible odds, and he ran out of time. Helios Airways Flight 522 changed aviation forever. Pressurization checks became mandatory after maintenance. Warning systems were redesigned to be impossible to confuse. Training for hypoxia recognition became standard. Pilots now learn the symptoms, learn to recognize when they're being affected, learn to descend immediately at the first sign of trouble. But these changes came too late for 121 people. Too late for the families who waited at Athens airport for loved ones who would never arrive. Too late for Andreas Prodromou, who woke up from unconsciousness to find himself the only person alive on a dying plane, and who spent his last minutes trying to save people who were already gone. The ghost flight flew for 2 hours and 57 minutes. For most of that time, it was a plane full of dead and dying, guided only by computers, watched by fighter jets who could do nothing but bear witness. And when it finally
fell from the sky, carried with it 121 souls, and a grim reminder that in aviation, a single mistake can turn a routine flight into a nightmare. Sometimes the most terrifying disasters are silent ones. No explosion, no fire, no warning, just a switch left in the wrong position, and 121 people slowly running out of air as their plane flew off without them. Flight 522 took off at 9:07 a.m. By 9:30 a.m., everyone was unconscious. At 12:04 p.m., everyone was dead. 3 hours from takeoff to tragedy. 3 hours of a ghost flight that no one could stop. And one flight attendant who woke up just in time to see the end.